It's time for a video that I've been excited to do for quite a while because I get to put the fender flares on the car. Now I've got a few to choose from. I think I mentioned this before. And I've got to work out what I want to go on. I have played around with it a little already. I've already fitted up one of the smaller fender flares to the front. I've taken it back off though, just because it kind of didn't need to be there and I'm still stuffing around. I do have a problem with the rear, and that's what I'm going to try and sort out today. Front fender flares are easy to do. It's one sheet of metal. You just got to put some holes in it and bolt it on and line it up. But when it comes to doing the rears, there's more issues. There's this door line that runs right along the original fender and runs down there. On top of that, the wheel arch is a different diameter than the front, just a little bit. So it does make fitting these a little bit trickier. I did start to put some riv nuts in for a particular flare that I wanted to use, and I think I've changed my mind just because the rear fender flares are way too wide. I'll show you what I mean. So here's a rear fender flare. In the set that I bought, the fronts were a little bit, they didn't poke out as far, but in the rear, they poke out quite a bit of an aggressive flare. Now, I'm still in two minds about using this one or not. The problem is it pokes out quite away from the body, which leaves the wheel tucked right underneath that fender flare. I would like this to be the same diameter, but just not as deep. So my thought process is, do I use this one and put all the riv nuts in place and just use it? But I don't know if it'll look a little bit dicky with such a big fender flare on the back of the car with the wheels kind of tucked in. It honestly won't look that bad, but you know, they won't be poking out, they won't be flush with the fender flare. The other option I have, I ended up buying another kit, because these things are like $20 or $30 a kit, they're so cheap. I bought a set of 4 at the front fender flare size from the first kit. So now I've got 4 of the fronts that I can use on the rear. These should work. You can see the profile's far less aggressive, and I think I can make this work a little bit neater than that big giant one on the back. Although there's going to be 2 riv nuts that I've already put in that are going to be unused. That doesn't bother me because the fender flare will cover it anyway. So I'm thinking the small one. So I'm just going to continue. I'm going to use that little riv nut there that's already in place because that needs to, well, it's just a starting point for me. And we're just going to go one by one from maybe this one here because we've already got it in. We're just going to make our way around the car and slowly bend this fender to shape as we go. Hopefully it fits nicely. Fingers crossed I don't muff it up. A little bit of the hardware that will be needed. I mean, you can use tack screws if you really want to, but I'm using these. These are riv nuts. You put them in the little riv nut tool and they squish onto the fender once you put a hole in it. Basically just like, well, it's a riv nut. And I have some nice screws and some dress washers. I don't know what that says on it. I don't really care, but it's better than just having a plain bolt sitting in the side of the fender. This stuff on eBay is like super cheap to get, so if you want to search them up, I think they're called dress nuts or dress washers. I bought everything in the size M6. So that's M6 riv nuts and M6 washers with the bolts. So that's going to make it nice and neat. So I take my drill down there and start drilling things. I'll try and show you again the 2 profiles. This is the big one. And I think it's just going to be a little bit too hectic. It pokes out way too far from the body of the car. And I think it's going to look, I don't know. But I think we're going to go with the smaller one. It's just got a much nicer fit to it. You still get the look of the Fender on there, but just without it poking so far out from the side of the car. And also, normally I'd mount the Fender dead center like this, you know, like you can, you don't want to get it too wrong on the angle, but I kind of like it a little bit more rotated left. It brings the front point down to this part of the car, and it kind of keeps this whole arch even. Now I want to follow this arch really closely, but I don't want it to hit the door. So when that opens, it can't hit the flare. If it does, I'm probably going to need to shade it down a little bit. Another thing too, because this ridge is on angle, you can see that riv nut there. It's not dead flush. It's actually facing down like this, which is a little bit annoying. See, that bit there is the problem. It follows the line real nice all the way around, and then this bit is offset, and it doesn't sit with me well. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to have this, if I'm going to be able to bolt this here and then kind of twist this down on an angle. I hope I can, because I want this bit to be flush with the actual guard. I just don't know. I mean, if I pull it all the way down here so that it's flush, then I've got this gap, and I think that looks a bit weird. Now every time I put a riv nut in and a bolt, I'm going to have to keep moving the end of this flare to get it to sit where I want it to. Just so you can see it from a slightly better angle of what I'm doing. That's in there, that follows the door line quite nicely. That one's in there, which is going to pinch this little gap together, which is kind of why I want to use that riv nut in that place. If I leave it the way this is, it's going to hit the door. The door does open actually, but it hits it. It's horrible. So this needs to come down a little bit. So I'm just going to grab this and pull it down, just so I can get clearance from the door and keep that line even. So let's keep drilling. Now I'm going to undo this so I can drill that main bolt. So there's going to be a lot of undoing and redoing up. I think the best I'm going to get is halfway between, like down here. So this is half the gap, and that'll be a little bit open. So let's go ahead and drill it. All right, and that is how it's going to stay. Not too bad. This is easy to fix. Get a heat gun, bend it in, cool it off, and it keeps its shape. And that'll hug against there real easy. I'll show you that in a minute. I'll do the same with the back end here that needs to be heated up and pinched in. Apart from that, it's come up pretty good. The only bolt that I think sucks is this one right here. Because I originally bolted it on with that other flare when I was testing, the hole was a little bit further out, so you can see it's not quite flush, which is a bit annoying, but you can hardly tell from here anyway. But that's actually a lot more difficult than what it seems, trying to fit that on. Let's get the heat gun and get these sorted. before I move on to any more. All right, so now we got to start heating up these edges and bending them down like so, so that when they push onto the car, they sit flush. Now I'm just going to go put some cold water over this so it kind of sets it in place so it cools down, because while it's hot I don't want it to form into any other shape. Alright, that's set in place now, it's got a nice arch on it. Now we do this side. Alright, now we get to put all this back on together. Hopefully for the last time. Well, unless I choose to spray the guards, which I've been thinking about not doing. We'll see. Awesome, hopefully you can see there now that the gap is taken up because we bent that panel in a little bit, and once screwed on it compresses nicely. And that's the same with the front, so that's now nice and flush with the paintwork, well, with the bodywork. So that's come out pretty cool. Can I still open my door? Oh yeah, without a problem. I'm glad I didn't go with those massive big wide ones because they just would have stuck out way too far. But that's looking really, really nice. Very happy with that. This bolt here was a pain in my rear end, but I'm happy I did that because it's pinched the plastic of the guard over the shape of this bump here. So that now doesn't have a gap. The rear one still has a bit of a gap. Now if I want to, I can heat this up and actually push that in like so, and hopefully get it to cool down in place. That's an option. But for now, I think that's going to do for this guard. So now I got to do the others. So we will see you when they are all done. It's exactly the same process as I showed you. Alrighty, we are completed. Fender flares on all four corners. They actually look really decent. I was thinking about spraying them the same color of the car, which I can do at absolutely any time I wish, just by taking them back off and spraying them. But I think they kind of suit the car being matte black against this nice graphite color with the black wheels, etc. I think they actually look really, really, really nice, just as they are. I'm going to leave them like that for now. There won't be a rush to spray them. But the rear ones are definitely a little bit more difficult to get to sit where they need to sit, given that I'm trying to follow this arch compared to the front ones. The fronts just kind of worked. They fit that top arch really, really nice. And again, just heated up the sides so they sit flush with the panel. And they look pretty damn sweet. So now all four are on. And that's one job that I've been excited to get done because I wanted them on the car, so it looks cool. It took a while for those riv nuts to arrive in the mail, but once they did, I got straight into it. So anyways, that's going to do it for a quick video on putting some eBay wheel guards or fender flares on my Corolla. I think it looks awesome. Till the next one.